Hello, everybody. This is Appeal to Reason on YouTube and Rumble. So, today I wanted to talk about something that is very uncontroversial and shouldn't offend anybody. I was going to talk about religion today. That definitely is not a subject that offends anyone ever. So, it's a story from the New York Post where they're talking about I'll just read the headline and it'll explain it all for itself. The headline is Young Men Are Leaving Traditional Churches for More Masculine Orthodox Christianity in Droves. So I wasn't familiar with this story, but let's go ahead and dig into it now that we are familiar with that apparently young men are leaving the Protestant form of Christianity for Orthodox Christianity. So they start out interviewing this young man, Ben Christensen. He was raised Anglican, going to church every Sunday and going to a religious school, and also every summer going to a Christian summer camp. Sounds pretty similar to my upbringing. So he's 27, grew up in Fairfax, Virginia, found himself longing for a more traditional faith. The hard thing about growing up in my church was there was a lot of change, even in my lifetime, he told the Post. I realized there really was no way to stop the change. He watched as traditions went by the wayside. A robed choir was swapped out for a worship band, and lines were blurred on female ordination, and long-held stances on LGBTQ issues were also shifted. All of this stuff was basically fungible, which gave me a sense that the theology components could also be fungible. So that's interesting. You could kind of say the same thing about Orthodox Christianity too with the Pope. The Pope has been pretty woke in recent years on any number of issues. But there's definitely a whole lot more tradition associated with Catholicism for sure than evangelicalism. Just going down through the story, here's him talking again, or about this guy again. So he attended college and landed perhaps in the most traditional Orthodox Christianity in 2020. At the age of 25, he converted. It seems that the mainline denominations are hemorrhaging people, he said. If you still are serious about being a Christian now, that there really isn't so as much of a social status tied up in it, and you want something that has a little more heft to it, there's a lot more awareness of orthodoxy than there used to be. So let's go on. There's a survey that they mention here. A survey of Orthodox churches around the country have found that there's a 78% increase in converts in 2022 compared to pre-pandemic levels of 2019. While historically men and women converted in equal numbers, vastly more men have joined the church since 2020. It's interesting. Wasn't aware of this until today. Father Joseph Trenham, who led St. Andrew's Orthodox Church of Riverside, California for nearly 3 decades, has noticed a swift jump in interest of the past 4 or 5 years, and the massive uptick isn't showing any signs of tapering off. So he points out that a vast majority of attendees of Christian churches are female, and many services are accordingly dominated by emotional songs, swaying, uplifting of hands, eyes closed in ecstasy. Men are much less comfortable with those things. I wasn't even comfortable reading that sentence. So yeah, definitely not when you use those words. And they voted with their feet, he says, which is why they've minoritize this form of worship. And he said, our worship forms are very traditional and very masculine. And then they go on to talk to a different guy they interviewed here, who's similar story to the last young man that converted to Catholicism. He says he was attracted to Orthodoxy because it was more traditional and masculine, especially appreciates the challenge of discipline required to adhere to intense prayer and fasting. Who doesn't like a good fast? Well, I guess, men do like challenge, and they like to feel like there's a sense of belonging and camaraderie for sure that they're going through. Like, they've done studies where, men go through a traumatic event with another man and they have a lot more respect for them, and they feel, like they bonded with each other, especially, people in the military, stuff like that. That is a severe, an extreme, circumstance for sure. So they're talking to this guy again. So he's saying modern Christianity has become watered down. People go to church on Sunday and they sing a few songs. They listen to a couple hour long sermon that seems more like a TED talk, and they come home and go on with their lives. So yeah, I've definitely noticed it as well, that a lot of these pastors will have this just feel good service. A lot of these mega churches, especially, they just have this feel good sermon. Feel like you're seeing a psychiatrist or something, therapist, more than you are attending a church service sometimes. And it's very watered down and very dumbed down. A lot of times there'll be, one Bible verse in the entire sermon, and they just hammer the same point 6 different times. It's like, dude, I got it the first time. I came here for a in-depth and, thought-provoking sermon about, religious theology and digging into the Bible. I mean, the Bible is such an amazing book, and it is so profound, and there's so much meaning to it. And you just have to, I would expect, someone that, I'm sure the pastors understand it in, a profound way, but I guess they feel like they have to dumb it down for everybody. I don't know. It's just can be very disappointing sometimes when you feel like you went and they just repeated the same lines over and over again and didn't really get into any depth of it at all. So here's another guy that they talked to, Perku, a theology professor who converted at age 24, understands why his faith is appealing to young men. Orthodoxy is a call to adventure because it asks you to fast, it asks you to pray, and all these things. The journey of self-improvement that I think is contextualized into a very masculine and appealing dimension. I mean, that's definitely exactly what so many men are starving for, is, a sense of adventure and the sense of belonging and, the challenge of something, for sure. When life has become so easy for so many people, so many people have lost their ambition and drive because life has just become so easy. They can sit home and eat Dominoes and, just get fat and play video games. So the psychologist Jordan Peterson and author Jordan Peterson developed a massive following among young men. He told the Post that he noticed a growing number of Gen Z men like Elijah trending towards orthodoxy. In part, he theorized it's because tradition makes it unquestionable. Unlike Protestant services, which are more dependent on the preacher, you can't criticize Orthodox services. It's like going to a ballet and saying, "What's going on here?" It's a stupid question. A ballet is the same thing as an Orthodox ceremony. It's ritual. It's dance. It's not the words only. It's the words and the architecture and the images and the history, and you're participating in it. That is very true. I've never been to a Catholic service before, but I did go to a really cool cathedral over the summer, and it's awe-inspiring. You see the ornate details and all this old history, this stuff from like 100, 200 years ago. All the detail and everything put into it. It's amazing to see, and I could only imagine how much more special it would make a service feel versus, you go to a gymnasium somewhere or has a similar feel to that, that they're having a church service in. I mean, there's utility in that, and it, the building shouldn't matter, but it does completely change the feel of things. So I think they've got something there. They've been doing churches like this for, thousands of years now. So, at least since the beginning of Catholicism anyways, since it became a dominant area of, Christianity, they've been doing it this way. And there's something to it, we don't have these traditions for no reason at all. The people, our ancestors were a lot more intelligent, than people give them credit for. That's all I'm going to say. So yeah, then they talk to another guy here. One might say orthodoxy itself is more masculine, especially when compared to more feminized forms of Christianity that exist today, where they emphasize emotional experience and feeling good and appealing to the self, he said. Orthodoxy isn't about us, it's about God. And I think young people today can intuitively sense that out. We know that we're being pandered to. And I hate that feeling like you're being pandered to. So many churches, it feels like they're just trying to make their church, I hate this word, Instagrammable. Have you heard that word before? Restaurants are doing it like crazy now. They're trying to make they don't care about what the food tastes like. It just needs to be Instagrammable. So some, young white chick can take pictures of it on Instagram, and then all her friends want to go because they want to be in the ambiance of the restaurant too. It annoys me. Anyway, so we mentioned Jordan Peterson in that last, in the middle of that last article. So let's hear what he has to say to young men and to the church about young men specifically right now.
The Christian church is there to remind people, young men included, and perhaps even first and foremost, that they have a woman to find, a garden to walk in, a family to nurture, an ark to build, a land to conquer, a ladder to heaven to build, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to face stalwartly in truth, devoted to love, and without fear. Invite the young men back. Say, literally, to those young men, you are welcome here. If no one else wants what you have to offer, we do. We want to call you to the highest purpose of your life. We want your time and energy and effort and your will and your goodwill. We want to work with you to make things better, to produce life more abundant for you and for your wife and children, and for your community, and your country, and the world. And we have our problems in the Christian church. We are moribund and sometimes, far too often, corrupt, and sometimes deeply so. We are outdated, as are all institutions with their roots in the dead, but still often wise past. So join us. We'll help fix you up, and you can help fix us up. And together, we'll aim up. And here's a message to those young men skeptical about such things. What else do you have? You can abandon the churches in your cynicism and disbelief. You can say to yourself, narcissistically and solipsistically, the church does not express what I believe properly. Who cares what you believe? Why is this about you? Do you even want it to be about you? What if it was about others? What if it was about your duty to the past and to the broader community that surrounds you in the present? What if it was incumbent upon you and vital to your health and willingness even to live, to rescue your dead father from the belly of the beast, where he has always resided, and to restore him to life? Once again, to the churches, Protestant, you're the worst at the moment. Catholic, Orthodox. Invite young men. Put up a billboard. Say, young men are welcome here. Print some flyers and put them in a box by the billboard. Signal the existence of those flyers with an arrow with the words, more information about attending here. Tell those who have never been in a church exactly what to do, how to dress, when to show up, who to contact, and most importantly, what they can do. Ask more, not less, of those you are inviting. Ask more of them than anyone ever has. Remind them who they are in the deepest sense and help them become that. Your churches, for God's sake, quit fighting for social justice. Quit saving the bloody planet. Attend to some souls. That's what you're supposed to do.
I love that. That is so powerful. And could you just imagine what the world would be like if, churches started saying that? Because young men are so thirsty for someone to give that message to them. That's why Jordan Peterson has been this rock star figure that, so many men all over the globe, view as like their father figure, or, he's the first one that has actually spoken to them like they matter and encouraged them for the first time in their life in that way. These guys, could you imagine how many of them would be packing in the church pews if, a church started speaking to them like that and telling them, hey, we've got a message for you, and you matter, and you can help the world, and we're going to help you do that. And, you're going to help us along the way too, because we need you just as bad as, you need us. And we've seen what happens when our country falters in its faith and religion. We've seen what happens to men. We've seen the rise of weak men over the last 50 years, or maybe more, where, it's become abundantly evident with the rise of mental illness and crime and everything, and just the way people treat each other. It's obvious we need strong men to be good fathers and good husbands to their wives. And without that, the entire society collapses and caves in on itself. And it's just creates this endless cycle, where you have a crappy father, he leaves, and then, his son becomes just like him because, he didn't have, a good father raising him, or, same thing for, the daughters. And so much. I mean, I feel like almost all of our issues we face as a society could be drastically improved if we just strengthen the family. And that's, that's what I love about a lot about what JD Vance brings to the table is his commitment and his, you know, the knowledge I perceive him having on how important the family is. It's super refreshing to see. I think this message is great, and more people need to hear it for sure. But if you liked it and you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with your friends. And I will see you next time.